Alrighty, guys. We've got a very special guest today. I've been excited for this one since I first made contact with Mr. Bentley, Mr. Mike Bentley, Michael Bentley, his full name. Um, we are joined. He's a very special guest. Not only another great SOG recon man, but he was another SOG Halo combat jump member. He was a member of the fourth SOG combat jump with RT Storter, led by Captain Jim Storter, with Mr. Michael Bentley, Millard Moye, and Newman Ruff, who happened to be Mr. Mike's first 1-0 on RT Arizona before he went over to Montana. So that's a little brief bio and what we've got to look forward to. I'm going to let Mr. Mike give a brief bio on himself, let him introduce y'all to him, let him introduce himself to you guys, and we'll get started and let y'all get some questions in and cover some great SOG history. So, Mr. Mike, thanks for joining us this morning, and the floor is yours for a brief bio.
Oh, brief bio. I guess starting at when I joined the military, I joined the military in 1969. Went to Fort Bliss for basic training. Then I went to Fort Gordon for infantry AIT, and then to Fort Benning, Georgia for jump school. And then I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina for special forces training. And then I went to Nam.
Okay.
That's about it.
And to kind of I'm getting my stuff together for the jump and everything. So when you first joined, you were you completed your boot camp. Was it at Fort Bliss?
Fort Bliss, Texas.
Fort Bliss, Texas. And from there, I believe you went to AIT to Fort Gordon, and then to Benning for jump.
Correct.
Okay. And is this around the time you began to hear murmurs of SF or began to get interest in special forces, or?
No, this sounds kind of corny, but my hero was John Wayne, and I was inspired by his movie, The Green Berets. So I volunteered all the way.
That is a wonderful movie, and I hate to say it, it took me quite some time to actually be able to see it for the first time, and now I've got it recorded, and it will not leave my DVR. And we've actually spoken to a few SOG men who have said that was their impetus to join, and seeing that they were like, if I'm gonna go fight, I want to fight with the best and be trained by the best. And interesting to hear you're another one of those gentlemen. So
there you go.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So you take the SF tests and pass, and you're off to brag. And what are you geared toward? What's your MOS? What was your specialty in special forces?
I was a radio operator. When we got assigned our MOS, we had to stand in this big line, and I wanted to become a medic, but by the time I got up to my turn, all those slots were filled. So I had to go into weapons or into radio. So I chose radio.
Okay. And do you happen to remember in your SF class, did you happen to remember any guys, or did you cross paths guys from your training group in Vietnam, or did you see any from training group in SOG at CCC?
Yeah, there were a few that went to CCC from training group, but we all went to different teams or to the platoons. So everybody was spread out pretty good. A lot of them went to our sister compounds in CCN and CCS.
I was recently given an awesome document. It was a graduation document of class 69-1 with Frank McCluskey, Terry Cadenback, Doug Letourneau, Mike Sheppard, quite a few. I would say 50 to maybe 75% of that class were SOG men or either Mike Force. And the names I didn't recognize, I would assume were A Camp or something else. But I was surprised to see how many SOG men were in that graduation group. I was just amazed at that. Did that kind of happen?
Yeah, when we went to Vietnam, you go through Cam Ranh Bay and then up to Nha Trang, and there you were given your assignments. And it seems like most people wanted to join the command and control units.
And being you kind of got there a little later on, shall we say, were there murmurs around Bragg, and while you were in training group of command and control, did you kind of know already by the time you got to Vietnam you could go ahead and apply for it, or what was the SOG rumor mill going like at that time?
Oh, we heard rumors. We didn't really get to choose our outfit until we got there in the train. But yeah, we heard rumors about it, and that's where everybody wanted to be.
I can imagine. Well, I know a few instances of some SOG guys that got injured and ended up, as they were recuperating, being sent back and were teaching at training group and all that. Did you happen to remember or come across any guys that may have been instructors that were SOG or in any of the projects or anything?
Instructors? Yeah, there were a few instructors, but they were older guys that were instructors, most of them, and they didn't. From my memory, they didn't run recon anymore. They did other duties on the compound. I'll put it that way.
I was looking at one of I forgot who it was. He was like 30 or 40, and he had gotten wounded, went back, taught, and managed to somehow get re-upped and was going to go back to, it may have been CCS, and he was gung-ho as hell to run recon or at least be in the exploitation forces, which was the hatchet forces down south. But that, he was so old, and not that he couldn't do it, but the guys, felt respect for him and didn't want anything to happen to him as much as he had already been through. And he pretty much ran the club down there, Club Torres. So that I like to see how some of the guys look out for the older guys in there, especially if they've been through the ringer with SOG. That's especially those early guys, just studs.
Yeah. Well, running recon was a young man's game for the most part. I mean, there were exceptions, Mike Sheppard was 33,
yeah,
and he was running recon. So,
That's always surprised me at some of the ages that I've found out speaking to you guys that you know, we see all y'all's photos in Jason's books. By the way, guys, you know, they're working on a new Montana edition, but this is the first Jason Hardy book, and Montana's in this with Mr. Mike in it. And I got to recommend that as well as this one. I'm getting off track, but we'll get back to it. Just to let y'all know, if y'all are wanting info, this is the volume 1 of the revamped edition, and Arizona is in it. So I recommend this wholeheartedly if you're wanting to get pictures, information, and all of the like. Can't recommend him enough. Jason's a solid person and a wonderful historian. I wouldn't know anything without him. Of course, without talking to y'all also. But when you do end up getting to Cameron, you mentioned you were able to kind of pick where you were wanting to go CNC wise. So at that point in time, you were able to literally pick if you wanted to go up north, central, or south.
Yes, that's basically it. I mean, if they had a slot for you, you win, you know, so, and there was always a slot.
Yes, sir. I can imagine. So, especially at that point in time, with as much missions as y'all were running, and the troops coming down the trail. So, what's that like when you finally figure out? You know, you got orders to CCC, and you're going to be going to Kontum. Are you is there a flight to Kontum? How are you getting there?
Yeah, we left the train and C-130, and it had several cargo crates on it, along with, I don't know, 30, 40 guys, something like that. And Kontum had the shortest paved runway in Vietnam. And we made the first run at the runway, bounced off of it and did a go around. And we came around and did the second bump and go, which kind of got us got the adrenaline running. And then the third one, we bounced and then bounced again. And when we bounced the second time, it blew all the tires out on the aircraft, and we come skidding into down the asphalt, and finally got off the aircraft. And I thought I was dead the first day I got there.
My God. So with that wild entrance, what's the first task for a new prospective recon man? Where are you going at that point in time? Are you checking in with the colonel, or where are you going from there?
I think we were asked where we wanted to go, and then from there, you either went to Recon Company or one of the other companies. I elected to go to Recon. I was assigned to RT Arizona, and E7 Ruff was 1-0 at that time, and ran there for a little while, a couple of months maybe. But Sheppard from RT Montana asked me to come over because his last mission, one of the guys, maybe it was Sample, I don't remember, got killed. Boyd had de-roased back to the States. So Mike was basically the only team member on the team at the time, and he asked me to come over to RT Montana, and I spent the rest of the time there.
Wow. Okay, so you and I'm trying to see here, because with RT Arizona, July, August of 70, September. And I didn't even realize this, even with speaking with Mr. John Good, because I didn't realize here until recently when we spoke that Mr. John Good was also on Arizona at that time with you and Mr. Newman Ruff. But also, y'all had 5 men. I think you originally started out as the 1-5 or 1-4 because y'all had quite a few men, a heavy team.
Well, I tell you, my memory's a little different, I think. I don't remember John Good being on RT Arizona, but he may have been. I mean, I'm not disputing anything he said, but all I remember, there was Ruff, a Michael Wilson, and a guy named Giaco, and myself when I left Arizona. But I don't remember Good being on RT Arizona, although he may have been. I don't recall.
Okay. He
maybe he was on before or after that. I don't remember.
He was on, it looks like he was on at one point in time and then either came back, but he was there for a short time because he at a point in time, he said, according to him from one of our interviews on here, he and Mr. Newman Ruff were going out, just 2 Americans in the Arizona yards. So I'll have to see exactly when he was there because according to Jason, it's got as many as for a period of time, mind you. Like you said, this could be completely different. But y'all had up to 5 men for a period of time. Just according to Jason.
That's 50 years. Yeah, it's 50 years ago. So, you know, I can't remember really.
It's fine. It's kind of in the bushes, so to speak. But we've heard a lot about Mr. Newman Ruff about being and I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to get something together here. About Mr. Newman Ruff, clearly is an accomplished recon man. He was on the HALO jump with you, but we've heard from other recon men at how well he ran Arizona. Could you tell us a little bit about him and your experiences with him and what you thought about him as a team leader?
Oh, he was definitely qualified. He was a quiet man. Didn't talk a whole lot to the teammates, I guess. Kind of kept to himself. Always walked around with a pair of nunchucks, flipping them around. But he was a good recon man.
That's what we've heard, and I'm getting a photo together. Gonna have it pulled up, but he used to carry out the chop down M14, I believe, and there for a while actually. John Good. That's why I kind of remembered specifically him being on Arizona. That he said Newman was taking out a 30 cal carbine for a while. Which seems absolutely insane to me, considering all the weaponry y'all got and the lack of stopping power that thing has.
Yeah, we used a lot of weapons, little AKs, Swedish Ks, that sort of thing, but Israeli Uzis. Yeah, he's Ruff was a different kind of guy. I'll just put it that way.
Yes, sir. We've Mr. John did a good little story on him and his how he got his nickname the Happy Dragon, or his call sign the Happy Dragon, and kind of what a character he was, not only in the field but outside, but on R&R or what have you. They said they used to have a lot of good times together. and Mr. John said he learned a great deal of recon skills and how to lead a team from him, because he ended up taking over Texas for a period of time. And said he used a lot of the stuff Mr. Newman taught him on the team later on. And I've got some photos hopefully coming up here in just a second. I was going to show off of some of your Arizona teammates, but a man that doesn't really get a lot of how should I say, not press, but he's not mentioned in John Placer's books and all of that very much. But he seems to be a pretty solid recon man. Was Mr. Not Honeycutt. He was on the team as well. But Mr. Mike Wilson. He not only ran recon and SOG, but he ended up down in Rhodesia after SOG. Did you get to know him very well?
Yeah, I knew Mike very well. He was gung ho. I mean, he was all about it. I happened to see one of the mercenary magazines they put out with him on the cover. So I got a hold of his phone number somehow and called him. He's retired now, and he's working with Ironworks. What do you call that? He's an ironsmith, as far as I know.
I've got a picture of Mr. Mike right there on the on the screen. Let's see. He ended up going over after holding the team leader for a while Newman was on Mr. Newman Ruff was on extension leave. He went over to be a Covey rider, but processed out in 71 after 3 years service with 24 months in Vietnam. But in 76, he joined the Rhodesian Army and served with the Gray and Salut Scouts as a color sergeant, where he remained until 1980. Michael went on to serve with the Joint Military Commission in Sudan in 2004 before he retired. So that's just his military stuff. It doesn't get into what he. Wow. I wanted to show off Mr. Newman Ruff with his chopped, and there's Mr. James Giacco, with his chopped M14 right there with the broomstick handle on the front. Quite the photo. That's famous all over the internet, and we were always curious if that was just a hero picture, send home picture, or if he actually used it. And from all accounts, he took it out and used it to great effect from all accounts.
Yeah, he used a lot of different weapons other than the CAR 15 was a standard issue.
We kind of hear about the guys. It seems like more on the heavy teams, like California, New York per se. The RPD coming into effect, and other AKs, but mostly the RPD. Did any of you guys, or did you specifically like the RPD, use the RPD, or anything like that?
No, our team Montana carried standard M79s and grenade launchers and CAR 15s. Other teams, they went the whole route where they wore NVA pith helmets and NVA uniforms and carried AKs and RPDs and RPGs. So yeah, it's just their individual preference on how they ran.
Wow, yeah, and like Mr. John Plaster says in his books and all that, it's really the prerogative of the 1-0 and the guys running the mission on what they want to carry, considering y'all had the armory that y'all had,
Yeah, I mean it was all volunteer, so you got to kind of do what you wanted.
Yeah,
I haven't seen John Plaster in a long. I haven't seen John since he was on Covey. since I left. I tried to get in contact with him a couple of times, but I always kept missing him at the duck hunt in North Dakota.
Okay, well, I've if you don't have his info, I've got it and can get it to you. I happened to bump into him in 2022 at SOAR when I was invited, and gosh, just the highlight of my life getting to finally see him, since he is sporadic about showing up to those things. So I felt extremely blessed to be able to see him and get to ask him a few questions, and he signed some photos and my John Plaster, actually all three of my Plaster books. So what a guy.
Yeah. Well, he's been writing a lot.
Yeah, he has, and thank goodness. He's really, his three books, when anybody asks what books to start with, I usually recommend that, because not only are you getting his personal story in one book, but you're getting the more or less an overall SOG history, and also how it all worked on the ground and in the air. So I think he really did good putting out the way he did. And then the pictorial book, which is out of this world, and it's one of the most sought after books online. It's amazing some of the prices they got up to before he, thank God, decided to do a reprint, and because all the people getting ripped off online. I've got two other of your teammates here, and I was curious because we really haven't heard much about them. But Mr. Mr. James, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, Giaco, Giaco or Giaco.
Yeah, I don't know much about him.
Okay. He seemed to be a bit of a journeyman. He's he was on quite a few teams, from Arizona, Arkansas, I think Ohio. He seemed to be on quite a few teams there at the end of CCC.
Yeah, I don't have any comment about it, really.
Roger that. Roger that. Oh, here's a picture of Mr. John Good rappelling when he was with Arizona. I'm not sure. God, I wish I could get a date on that. I'll ask him sometime this week to see exactly when he was there. And if y'all cross paths, because who knows, we can't ever keep up with stuff since it was so secret. And just because Jason has it doesn't mean it was sadly the written in stone that that's how the team was when you were on it. So, did you also say you ran with Captain or Lieutenant Honeycutt? Was his name David Honeycutt?
Yeah, he ran like a strap hanger. We call them strap hangers.
Okay.
On RT Montana. Usually they ran as strap hangers until the officer. He was an officer, right? And
yes, sir.
And he once they made contact and he got they got their CIBs, they were usually pulled back out of the field. And some of them were good, like Honeycutt. Some of them weren't, and you had to kick butt. Some of them weren't in shape enough to run in recon.
I was just fixing to ask or say, he seems like he was one of the better officers running recon, because they're, as you said, they're all wanting to get out there and get their CIBs, but there were a few strappers and then a few that actually worked their way up to 1-0 to officers that seemed to be pretty gung-ho and were pretty good. Were there many around in your time still, officers on the teams?
Not that I recall, but I may be, wrong about that. I don't know. But I don't remember a lot of officers who are running 1-0s.
Really, in '69, Lieutenant Tom Wascovich, he was on South Carolina and Wyoming, and other than Captain Storter popping up, for his specialty mission, eventual Captain Honeycutt, was Michael Forte a lieutenant?
Boy, you got me. I don't remember.
I want to say he was. we'll just add him to that. I there for a while. Captain John Kinstry. There were only a few in your time period. It seems like there were a few more running more on a regular basis as opposed to just strapping in the '69 time frame. Yes, he was. Thank you, Jason. He ended up becoming a first lieutenant with West Virginia after his Distinguished Service Cross. Wow, man, you were around a lot of you were around a lot of big names, shall we say, or pretty or good recon men. I mean, wow, actually David Honeycutt, codename the Judge, worked his way up to major and was a special operations officer at U.S. CENTCOM under General Schwarzkopf. So yes, wow. I did not realize that, and this was his second tour. And yes, he was a officer at that time, but worked his way up to major. Wow.
Yeah.
So
good for him.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing stories about that. And I was hoping
there was another captain, I believe his name was Valor.
Yes. Yes.
It was he ran with us for a while too. He was a good guy. I really respected him. And of course he ran, got his CIB. Don't know what happened to it. I didn't really keep up with anybody after Vietnam. I just, it was all done and over with, and life went on.
Yes, sir. He watches the show. He'll watch this. I tried to make sure he'd be watching today where he could at least say hello to you, because he took a picture. That'll come up when we get to Montana. He took that famous photo of all of y'all getting ready before y'all went out, and he said still the biggest regret of his life is not getting the talk NCO in the back of the picture to come take the photo so he could be in it with you guys, because he said he loved you guys to death for letting him go out on it as a strap. I've got his photo on the screen right now.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He after he completed his straps with you, finally, I always say CO, but he became the Recon Company XO until he ended up leaving DROSing.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. Okay, so
you probably know a lot more about some of these guys than I do with all your research.
I'm getting there. I wouldn't say as much, but I'm good at remembering faces and names thanks to Jason Hardy. So how do you remember? I know 50 years again. Do you remember exactly how long you were with Arizona before it came up that you'd go over with Mike?
Oh, my best recollection was like 2 or 3 months at the most, probably.
So did you get enough time per se to get your feet wet, enough time out in the field or training and all of that before you got to Mike, or did he really break you in?
Oh, we got some ground time, but not that much. I can't remember how many missions we ran or anything like that.
And were before we completely switched teams, was Arizona a Montagnard team, or was it Viet or Nung, or?
It was Montagnard.
Montagnard, okay. Okay, we are now transferring to Montana, and let's see here. That'll be another part I'll be interested, because we've not got the new book with the better layout of the team. When you get to Montana, is it at that point in time, is it just you and Mr. Mike for a period of time, and then Master Sergeant Baylor shows up, or is Baylor already around at this point?
No, it's just me and Mike for I don't know how long. We had a couple of different people. Sonny Hoffman came on the team, and then D-Roast. Mark Gentry was on our team for a while.
Lynn Moss
then I think
was on.
Lynn Moss. Not when I was there, I don't think. No, he was already on another team.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. He had gone, I think, to Ohio by that time.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten Mr. Mark Gentry was with you guys for a period of time. He CCN before that, and then did the Halo jump with you guys, or not with you guys, with Washington and the fifth, yes sir, and ended up becoming a unit legend with Eldon Bargewell and all the other Walt Shoemate and all the other guys that stood up Delta Force and all of that. Just a outstanding man from all we've heard.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He stayed in the Army. I think he became Sergeant Major in Delta Force and all that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow, I that's wild, because we actually had Mr. Greg Jordan on, who strapped with Montana as well. I want to think he was in November of '71, and you had already gone on from at that point in time. You didn't cross paths with Greg Jordan, did you?
Oh, I knew Greg. He
at
the time was working in the mail service.
Yeah, up at the top. Yeah,
Greg was actually, to my understanding, was a Third Army boxing champion. And he taught me a little bit about boxing. We had some sparring and stuff on the compound before I left.
There's another name that pops up a lot, and I've got some. When Mr. Mike Sheppard sent me some of his documents. Let's see here. Mr. Henry Waddell was Henry Waddell around your period of time with Montana?
No, he had left prior to my coming to Montana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not sure if it was Sample or Waddell that got killed.
It was Mr. Joe Sample.
Sample, yeah.
That was a bad. Let's see here. I've got Mr. There's Paul Boyd. So with and we got another. And there's a great question, guys. I'll be getting to some of those in just a minute. But we're laying the timeline down here. There's a famous photo of Mr. Mike Sheppard that actually Mr. Baylor was strapping with y'all at this point in time, and I want to say he said you were with him because Baylor was still there at this point in time. Were you on the mission where y'all found Montana Falls in Laos? The waterfalls.
Oh yeah. We took pictures. I thought Mike was going to send it into National Geographic because you couldn't see it from the air. It was actually, we stumbled onto an elephant trail, and we followed the elephant trail for a while, and then it veered off to the right, and you could hear the falls. So we got off the elephant trail and went down to the bottom of that falls and took pictures there. It was gorgeous.
I've got it up on screen, a black and white that Mr. Mike sent me, and I forgot the correct order of people, but I swear Mr. Bentley said last time he was on, said that's you and Baylor right here looking at the falls. So that I was hoping you were on there and could talk a little bit about that and how y'all found that. And I think I've got let's let me see right here. I've got quite a few photos, guys. Y'all bear with me. I hate it, but these are great photos of Mike and everyone. Oh, I do. Here's one of the aerial photos, guys, of the falls, and you can see down here is where the photo I just showed is where they were kind of standing there, looking as it hit. But look at that beautiful scenery right there. Did y'all? We've never asked this, and I don't think was it a relatively safe area that this was in, or how was it over there?
Laos was not a safe area.
I kind of figured y'all at least felt safe enough to stop and acknowledge the beauty and get some good pictures and stuff. But yeah, true that. No matter where you're at, Laos is never a safe place. Let's see. So what was and when you got to Montana, you were the RTO at that point in time, or was Mr. Mike the 1-0 that liked carrying a radio? Because we hear that sometimes.
Yeah, no, I carried the radio. I was a 1-1.
Wow. Okay. With Mr. Mike, we've got I'll be putting up a photo. Pretty big team. What was your first mission like with Mr. Mike? If you remember the first or one that pops out in your head, what was it like first getting with that team and getting to know them?
Man, I don't remember the first mission with RT Montana. I think we ran something like 35 missions, and they kind of all blurred together except a few of them. Spent two years there, so and that was 50 years ago. So
oh yeah, yes, sir.
A few of them stand out, but not many.
Wow. I mean, that's y'all are doing a lot of work. And Mr. Mike said that anytime he could get a mission and get y'all in the field, he was taking it as long as it wasn't absurdly dangerous, mind you. And here's one of my most favorite Vietnam SOG photos, whatever you'd like to say in all time. You guys, you're up here on the far right. Mr. Mike in the middle, and Valor on the left, with 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 Montagnards, with mostly all car 15s with 203s and a M60, and that is quite the team.
Yeah, we had just gotten off a mission. I can't remember which one it was, and somebody took our picture there in front of the talk. So
Mr. Matt Baylor took it.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. He took this one right here. There was another one of you guys as well, and I don't know who took that one. Mr. Greg said he thought he took it, but no, for a fact, Mr. Matt took this one because he has got the original, and I was hoping he'd be on here today to talk with us about it. But was that y'all's pretty? I mean, standard, you'd have to put in quotations because it changes, but is that usually what you guys, what the team consisted of? A, in manpower, and B, firepower?
Yeah, that's pretty typical. Some teams ran heavier than others. We ran a pretty heavy team towards the end there. But yeah, it's pretty typical looking.
I want to say there at the end, y'all got maybe I thought I counted 14 total, maybe 13. It was a large team there at the end.
Yeah, we got pretty heavy there towards the end.
Was that just a sign of the times or a necessity for the changing and the, shall we say, the influx of manpower that had gotten down south, or was that a personal choice on Mr. Mike to just beef up and get at them?
Oh, I think it was a personal preference of Sheppard. Uh, it's always the prerogative of the 1-0 on how heavy or light you ran.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, Joe Walker, Ed Walkoff, and Mr. Mike Sheppard instantly jump out as people or as 1-0s to me that had their teams doing some pretty interesting stuff, either training, manpower, usage, in the knee mortars, the RPDs, M60s, what have you. Just very interesting, the mindsets of the different 1-0s and their usage of heavy teams. Very interesting. Let's see. Since we're kind of right here in your first a mission, let me let's hit a few questions so I don't have everybody kind of beat me over the head after this one goes out. I think we may have covered this. We'll see. We've heard a few Newman Ruff stories from previous guests. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to have him as your first 1-0 and what his personality was like, which we did kind of cover a little bit. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Jason what was the ethnic background of the Indig teammates on Arizona and Montana, and what was your first impression of them?
Oh, the Montagnards?
Mm-hmm. Both teams were Montagnards?
Yeah, both teams were. My impression was they loved Americans. And they knew the bush better than we did. And it was kind of a symbiotic relationship between the Americans and the Montagnards, because they knew the jungle a lot better than we did. And we depended on them a lot in the bush. Of course, the Americans had the technology and the weaponry and all this stuff, but if you don't have the knowledge of the terrain, you could be at a deficit.
And we've heard from other guys, not only just at CCC, but up north and down south, that you'd get some guys in that had a rough first impression, shall we say, with the Montagnards. Either maybe had a previous tour and something happened, they weren't fully trustworthy, or were just blatantly, I don't care for them. And we've actually heard a few stories, we won't repeat them on here, of someone we've spoke about today mistreating some of the yards, and that not going over well with the 1-0. Did you happen to come across any of that? And did you have any issues working with Indigenous men, Montagnards, or anything?
We regularly saw our teams. I mean, they had their own team room. I love the little guys. Our yards were pretty short, but I mean, they were stout as mules, and they were great fighters. The only thing that happened that I remember was after I'd left the team, Master Sergeant Valor was pretty harsh on the yards because they didn't want to run with him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They didn't like him. I didn't like him either.
I was just fixing to say you and them are not in the minority on that, from what I've gathered on in our little SOG group on Facebook with the guys from CCC, that he and I don't know if you were around, but at one time he got very, very lucky that some guys showed up when they did, or he might not have been very well, shall we say, or been able to make it home alive because some of the guys got tired of his shenanigans.
Yeah. Valor was a glory seeker.
Not to dog him, but what I've been told is, you know, he was in the reserves or what have you, and their rank structure, award systems is totally different. So he went active, but still kind of used that system to get awards in and get his rank and all of that. And all. So we'll just leave it at that. He was not looked upon well by the other guys at CCC. And when Mike Sheppard heard about the yard incident, he was absolutely livid. But Baylor was gone by the time he got back, I heard, or had gone somewhere and wasn't around. Thank God for him.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened to him.
That's literally what people said. That's literally people's words as soon as his picture comes up online, is not our favorite person on the compound. Oh, this is a very interesting one. Jason was curious, in your opinion, with recon missions and bright light missions, could you speak about the differences if you ran any bright light missions, that is?
Well, the teams rotated up to Kontum for bright light for a week.
Doc Toe, up at Doc Toe, you mean?
I mean, yeah, Doc Toe. I mean, I'm sorry, Doc Toe,
yes,
for a week, and we rotated, you know, all the teams, and the only really, I never had to go in. This is when I was on RT Arizona. We didn't have to go in the field to help out, but we were there whenever, what was it? Operation Tailwind went on. Oh. And they brought back a lot of wounded on the CH-53s. I think 4 or 5 of them came up from a Marine unit who wanted to see combat. And then I think they left with 2 or 3. The rest of them got shot down. So we medevaced all the personnel there. There was one of the pilots, I think, one of the CH-53s. One of the pilots was standing in back of the chopper, and the tailgate was down. And one of the M60s cooked off a round. This is after we were back, or after they were back in Doc Toe. Went through his thigh, so we had to medevac him out too. There's pictures that I think I took of who was that? Rose, guy named Rose that was on in
Gary Mike Rose.
Yeah, and I think he got the Medal of Honor.
Yes, sir. It was upgraded. Mistaken.
Yeah, Silver Star to a Medal of Honor. So, you know, all total, while I was there in the 2 years, there were like, I don't know, 3 or 4 Medal of Honors out of that one compound. So
that's amazing, and I keep telling people about the CCC book, Uncommon Valor, and it is a outstanding book, and it literally is the entire history of CCC when it was FOB2, CCC, and then of course the task force years. And if I'm not mistaken, y'all had CCC had, was it 9 overall Medal of Honor winners during the span of the SOG years in Vietnam? It was either 9 or 12.
Yeah, I can't recall. I don't know how many total medals during that time of SOG was over there, but there were quite a few.
Here we go. Uncommon Valor Guys again, by Stephen Moore. The Uncommon Valor, the recon company that earned 5 medals of honor and included the America's most decorated Green Beret, Bob Howard. So it was 5. So that's that's ridiculous. And considering some of the stories in that book, there actually could have been several more at a CCC, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Well, Bob Howard, Captain Howard was he was recon commander there at the CCC for a while. He was gone before I got there, though. But
so
yeah,
did you have any contact with Bob Howard while you were over there, or was he gone literally the entire time?
No, he was already gone.
Wow.
He had left.
Okay. I was looking at my notes. Let me make sure. Oh, we've got a few more questions before I get to that. Mary Jo, we'll get to that question when we get to the HALO discussion. Josh is curious, did you ever hear about the SOG legend Ted Braden, who may or may not be DB Cooper?
Ted Brady?
Braden, Braden. He was at FOB2 early on.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
No?
I didn't know of him.
Okay. Just curious because Mr. Plaster had mentioned Buddy has written a book on him and covered some of his exploits in SOG. And we've spoken to some of his teammates, Leonard Tilley being one. And Mr. Plaster also were saying that they were being questioned up at probably up until like 69 if they had met, knew, or heard anything about Ted Braden's whereabouts, even that far after the DB Cooper incident. So we're always curious to hear if y'all have ever heard about him or heard any rumors about him.
No, I haven't. And you know, Hardy and Plaster and yourself, all these guys that do research on that stuff, y'all probably know more than the individual SOG guy by any means.
I appreciate even being lumped into that and you saying that. I know a bit, but I without you guys speaking to me, I wouldn't know anything. Interesting question, Jason. You're on fire today, my man. What was the smallest? Oh, I've got a question to piggyback that. Who was the smallest man you ran recon with or saw, and who was the largest man?
The smallest guy was probably Ruff. He was a little short guy.
Oh,
that I remember. Yeah, probably Ruff. The largest guy was a guy named David Mixter.
Lurch?
And he was killed. Lurch. And he was a big guy. And he got killed on a mission.
RT Colorado, very, very good recon man. And from all accounts, like you said, very, very good guy as well. But going with that smallest, I thought he was going to ask about team. What was, were there any, and I think we may get into one of those, but what was the smallest team you ever ran on?
Well, I only ran on 2 teams. The manpower, you know, RT Arizona ran 3-4 Americans, you know, probably 8 to 10 mountain yards. And then RT Montana, we ran anywhere from 2, 3, 4 Americans, and you know, 7 to 13, 14 yards at any one time.
Wow. And I'll get to a question that may be, nope, I hadn't come up. How good were your interpreters that you were around with Montana and Arizona that you worked with?
I don't remember the interpreter of Arizona, but Noam was the interpreter of RT Montana, and he spoke good English. He was a good guy.
It's amazing hearing some of the stories of, and especially some of the older guys, Montagnards, to clarify, you know, them either if they fought with the French and pick up and speak fluent French, or if they cross paths with the Germans and in any way speak fluent German as well as English. I mean, it's really astounding at some of the languages and how good they were. Some of them, mind you, were at English and the other languages.
Yeah, they were incredible. You know, when the U.S. first went over there, these guys were wearing loincloths, you know, and shooting crossbows for a living. And of course, some of our mountain yards went to HALO School. Mm. And, you know, that's saying something for a guy that runs around barefoot, loincloths, and a crossbow to take him up to 12,500 feet, you know, and drop him out of an aircraft. So, yeah, they were good.
And we're going to get into the HALO part. That's that I always love hearing not only the HALO training, but getting guys airborne qualified, and some of them are, you know, gung ho for it, and then others are like, nope, not doing that. Airplanes aren't, you know, Montagnards aren't meant to be in airplanes, and especially not jumping out of them.
Yeah.
We've got a few more questions that and then we'll progress a little bit because I have a little question to ask here as well. Jason, did you have a certain moment or a mission that proved your capabilities to the Montagnards, or did that have to build over time? Their trust in you.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when that happened. I think it built over time. But yeah, the camaraderie between me and the yards were good. You know, they were really good. I think they would probably do anything for me if something happened to Sheppard or something like that. We treated them very well. We bought them. Well, back then, a Seiko watch. I don't know if you remember this. There used to be 2 types of Seiko watch at the time in the 70s. One had a yellow face and the other had a bright blue face. I think we paid, I don't know, $35 or something like that for them a piece. We gave them to the mountain yards. In the States, they were running like $350 for a Seiko watch. We bought them Levi's to wear, you know, off compound and stuff. So we just trusted each other. We had good camaraderie. We were simpatico.
And I that's one thing I love hearing about it is the bonding and all of you guys did with y'all's Montagnards. And like you said, and as we've heard from other guys, you know, it really was a brotherhood, and and as you said, you felt like they'd protect you. You know, I've heard Mr. Mike tell stories of when stuff would get real heavy duty, that, you know, he'd have to get the Montagnards off of him to where he could direct traffic and keep things going, because they were laying on top of him to make sure he didn't get killed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that shows you, if you treat them right, I mean, they'll literally lay their life down for you. I mean, just some of the stories I hear about what they did and stuff. I mean, it'll just turn me into a little weeping girl sometimes of some of the sacrifices they made, and the Americans as well. Not to say y'all didn't. Let's see, Daniel. These stories are absolutely fascinating. I'm from the UK. Oh, wow. Nice to have a UK fan. Awesome. I know nothing about these people and what they did. It's an invaluable historical education. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Daniel. And you should be thanking Mr. Bentley here for spending time with us and sharing, because without people sharing, the history would die, and none of us would know about it. So, we've got a few more here. Glad to see you, Scott. Scott's father was Dick Gross from RT Washington, that made the halo jump with Gentry and Howard Sugar. So he's joining us today.
Yeah.
Jason he said he has seen some business card from Mr. Mike that says the werewolf is among you. Some of you will die. Were you around when he had those made up and used those?
Oh yeah. I think my wife sent you one of my cards. I'm not sure.
She was going to, and I think she was getting some of them together as she was mailing packages. I'll when I get that, I'll show those. I love y'all's little, either the business cards or y'all's calling cards, because both of them are absolutely outstanding and quite funny.
They weren't business cards, but just calling cards.
I mean, there is some that the guys got made that, you know, had their name and special forces, but of course didn't say SOG, but it would have like revolts to plan, virgins to convert, coups to throw, all kinds of stuff like that on it that I find. Have gun will travel. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's see. And did y'all? I know they pop up in Jason's book. Did y'all all get issued the walk on water? You know, to where if y'all got in trouble, you'd whip that bad boy out and say, "Can't take me downtown, guys. I'm off limits here."
I don't know about that. When we go on leave, we'd always carry these standing orders. I don't know if they were real or fake, you know, but it said it was what they call that, the classified order or carrier orders. Yeah, and it said you know, where to allowed to wear civilian clothes, allowed to carry sidearms. I'm not sure what else it said, but yeah, we carried those just for, and we actually used it once in NKP.
Were y'all in trouble or anything and having to get out of anything, or did?
Oh, we had been on leave down in Saigon, and we come back up to NKP at the gate so we could fly back on one of the Blackbirds back to Nam. But
Wow.
it was quite humorous to watch. We were sitting at the gate waiting for our ride, and we're in civilian clothes. You know, we got these rucksacks and stuff. And one of the MPs Air Force MPs. I mean, he is spit shined. He's got spit shine boots and white laces, and carrying his sidearm, and he's got some kind of hat on or anything. But we were watching him, and he was kind of just primping himself up. And then he strolls over to us and said, could I see your orders? And so we whipped out that classified courier order thing, showed it to him, and he stood there and read it and read it and read it. And then he finally says, you guys have a good job here. And we just laughed.
I'm trying to find either Mr. Mike Sheppard has sent one or Lieutenant Troy Gilly. Let me see. I think this. Oh, I've got Mr. Mike Sheppard's calling card here too that I can pull up. Dang it, it's not very clear. I don't need to show too much of that because he's got his social on there. Basically, guys, here's a walk on water pass. It says the individual identified on this side is required to wear civilian clothes in the performance of his military duties, can carry weapons, allow classified documents, and is not to be stopped for any reason. So that's pretty dadgum cool right there. And sadly, I cannot zoom in on this, which is a crying shame because I was going to try to read off the. Oh, here we go. Arthur Gilly, philanthropist, head of the oppressed, casual hero, world traveler, special forces, author, lecturer, traveler, and bum. Far Eastern Indochina Special Forces and Jungle Fighters Association. It says wars fought, revolutions started, assassinations plotted, uprisings quelled, hell raised, alligators castrated, bars emptied, orgies organized, virgins converted. Can't read that. Muff Diver, Something Diver, and Loves in Peace. That is the most hilarious business card that they can hand out. Mr. Troy is awesome for letting me have that. I greatly appreciate that. Sorry, I got off on a tangent. I was dying to find that card to make sure we had it right. RL64 would like to know, how many times were you and your colleagues briefed on POWs, American POWs, either sightings, potential locations, the facilities, or anything of that nature?
I don't know if other teams were. I don't recall us ever going on a POW snatch or anything like that. I think the intel was pretty flaky. No, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, unless it was a specialty. There's one SOG gentleman we know that kind of got a big operation to go look for the 3 American missionaries that were effectively dying, and they didn't. I don't think they got to them. It was sad. They had some kidney and liver issues, and right as they got to them, I think it passed away. But they did get them their bodies back to their families and such. So, but always tricky stuff, especially in Vietnam with the POW issue and trying to find them, and the effects now of the idea that men were left behind and such.
Yeah.
Jason, what was the closest you've ever been to the enemy without them knowing you were there? Could you maybe explain the situation of why you were there and that close?
I remember one mission. We didn't usually walk on trails, but we came to a trail and we started walking down to it, and there was a little creek down below, And as we were fixing to get to the creek, the trail just kind of winded around this knoll, and all of a sudden we heard a cough up ahead of us, and everybody froze, and then we just backtracked, and that's probably the closest that we got to somebody without them knowing it. And so and who knows, it could have been one guy, could have been a platoon. We didn't know. I mean, here we are, a little recon team. And most times if we ever made contact, you had to run for your life, and call in TAC air, because you never knew if it was going to be a squad that you were up against or a battalion or whatever. So we called in TAC air on anybody.
And with you being the radio man, did you feel your SF training and all of that? Were you pretty good on the radio, calling in air and working everything with the Covey?
Yeah, it was fine. Most of our training was like World War II stuff, like an Angry 109. That's a World War II black box thing, leg key. Of course, everything was done in Morse code back then. The PRC, what was it, 77? 77? Prick 77.
There's a Prick 77 and 20.
Yeah, that's probably the latest radio set that we used. Which is the flip up antenna. So, I mean, if you were back in a compound like in Saigon or in the Trang or something, you may use more sophisticated radio types and that thing. But for the field, that's about as sophisticated as we got.
Did with being the radio man and all of that, are you? Because I'm not too familiar. I don't think we've spoken to many of the radio men. Are you close enough with Covey to where you're just working with him, or would y'all be out so far on some of the missions where you're having to work with Leghorn to get radio relay, or how's that working? Or
no, Covey was there. Of course, they'd go back in the evening and then come back in the morning, and we'd establish contact with them. And a lot of times we had to get fixes because the maps were incredibly incorrect at that time. So we were always getting mirror fixes or something like that to establish where we were. And then we'd continue with our mission that day. But we gave, updates on anything from weather to, trails, if you find any new trails or just anything, any kind of that operational intelligence that may be, helpful. And then, of course, when you made contact, we didn't directly work with TAC Air. We relayed through Covey, and then they conducted the TAC Air itself. So, yeah, we instructed Covey where to lay down bombs, and of course they talked to the pilots of the aircraft.
Was was John Plaster and Mr. Larry White and them your Covey riders at this time, or do you happen to know who was the Covey?
Well, White was a Covey for a long time. I actually bought my Rolex Submariner from Larry White. I don't know if he remembers me, but and then Plaster, after he stopped running, he ran Covey for a while. I remember one mission, Tango 7, where he was running Covey for us when we made contact in one of the red box areas. I think it was on the 4th of July, as a matter of fact. I don't know why I remember that, but yeah, he was Covey at that time.
And from all accounts that I've heard and read, he was a dang good one. He trained and brought John over finally got him to stop running recon. And from all accounts, Mr. Larry was one hell of a not only recon man, but a hell of a Covey rider.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any?
They're the only guys, they're the only guys that we could depend on. Otherwise, we were by ourselves. No contact.
Wow. Oh, wow. Not only did we just have Tony Love, an FOB2 recon man, join us, but we've got the Dowie himself. Mr. Matt has joined us. He said, "Hello, Mike. Long time no see."
Yeah, it's been 50-something years, I imagine.
Dowie, we just showed your photo of you in your combat gear, getting ready to go strap with Montana, and we were just talking about the Montana Falls mission and your photo that you took. So you've been spoken about your ears must have finally been burning enough. Glad to have you though. We're about to kind of start getting into the last part and the HALO, which is what everybody is dying to hear about. But we've got two more questions pre-HALO here. Jason was curious, at CCC, did y'all ever get close to the DMZ running recon?
No, not at CCC. That was more of a CCN mission. We stayed in the tri-border area, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. That was our AO.
Yeah, and y'all had, I put up a map a second ago, guys, when he was talking about Dak To, and it's showing the proximity of Dak To to Kontum, and then Dak Pek, and the Dak To launch site being able to cross over the Bra into, as he said, Laos, or either southern Laos, northern Cambodia, or if they're doing locals or a specialty mission, they can still work in South Vietnam by being flown out of Kontum or Dak Pek if needed. So I'll put that map up again for you guys. Daniel has one more before we get into the last bits. So how old were you, sir, when you became a recon man? I imagine you to be kind of 30-something. I'm aware of 19 years for...
No, go ahead.
Oh, he's aware of 19-year-olds, combat soldiers, but was recon any different?
Yeah. I was like 20 and 21 when I ran. So, but you know, there were older guys that were there, but most of us were pretty young.
I think you're now, if I can remember correctly, you're tied. You, Mike Buckland, and maybe Mr. Ray Harrison, 69, the youngest being on a recon team at 20 and 21. That is ridiculous. And here I was 20, 21 in college and had no idea. I couldn't even get to class on time. Oh man. Oh, we do
Yeah,
have
we
one more
kind of got.
good one.
All right. Let me interject something here. When you're 20, 21 years old, you got the tiger by the tail. You got no place to spend your money, even though we didn't make that much back then. You got no place to spend it. So every time you went on leave, you spent a lot of money. But, like I said, we had the tiger by the tail.
And actually, that just popped up a question from earlier. When you bought your Rolex from Larry, how much did you pay back then for your Rolex?
$202.
Oh wow! And oh man,
You could have
still
gotten a gold
expensive.
Rolex. Yeah, that you could have gotten a gold Rolex, but I figured, I'm not that fancy, so the gold one was ruled out for me. Now Larry's got a gold one, I understand, but I chose a Submariner, and I think that runs something like 17,000 or something, even more than that now. So
Oh, they're
really,
astronomical.
yeah, and a gold Rolex back then was $700.
Man, I've seen a few of them that the guys have gotten, and some of them had them customized, but just the regular ones are beautiful, and that's a lot of money even back then, especially. Wow, man, oh
Yeah, it's a
man.
couple of months' pay.
You happen to still have your that Rolex?
Oh, I do.
Excellent,
I
excellent.
certainly do. I broke the bracelet part of it.
The band.
Had to get a new bracelet. Of course, I get it waterproofed every so often. But I paid more. I paid more for the bracelet than I did for the watch when it was new. So that
It's
tells you the
unbelievable.
appreciation of the watch.
Yeah, and I mean, collectors would pay a literal arm and a leg for those. I'm so glad you've still got it and it's in running condition. That's amazing. Um,
Oh
yes,
yeah,
Jason Tom Wiskovich was 20 as well. I forgot to mention him. I needed to get that straight. Miss Dowie says, unless the watch was gold, that was about 1,200, I believe. Wow. Yeah, he's saying it may have been even higher, the gold, which could have been 12.
yeah. Could have been depending on what type of uh, gold it was, or whether it's 18 karat, or if it had diamonds in it, or so.
I was
Yeah.
I, we saw there's in one of the Jason Hardy books, and I'll post it sometime, guys, of a Captain Jim Butler who started SOAR. His Rolex is all gold, and he had the band customized to where it had the CCN logo right here and his name over, or his Recon Team name, but it had diamonds all in the face of it, and I I could not even
Yeah.
imagine how much that cost then and how much he could get for it now amongst collectors. Of course, no Rolex aficionado is going to buy a sogged out watch, but SOG in history, military fans will pay an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, they can't have this one.
No, that one does not need to leave the Bentley family circle at all. We've got one more until we get into the Halo aspect. Not sure if this has been asked, but did the NVA activity increase in Laos and Cambodia in your time frame?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, towards the end they had anti-aircraft weapons, um, and
Tanks,
they were. I'm sorry.
tanks as well.
Yeah, tanks. Um, just bigger size elements, towards the end there. I guess they were moving their battalions and divisions through the Ho Chi Minh Trail to get into Vietnam, before that big push. I think when was that, in 75? I think when the last big push of the NDA, something like that.
They started taking Kontum and all the cities just.
Yeah. So yeah, and plus we found out, I didn't know it for 50 years, but I think Sheppard told me there was actually a spy in SOG down in Saigon. So all our missions, we got shot out of a lot of missions. When you go to insert into a mission, an area operation, you get shot out because they were waiting for you. And a lot of that's due to the spy that was in Saigon, in SOG, that we didn't know about until afterwards. So
I that's reading about that, the leak, the spy, what have you, was always terrible. Thank God some of y'all started realizing it, and y'all would mix up y'all's or switch up LZs and all of that. But even still, I mean, when they know you're coming to an area, they know you're coming. So it just always makes me mad, and I can't imagine what y'all must have been feeling at that point in time.
Yeah, well, I don't know who knew it and who didn't. I didn't know at the time. I don't think Sheppard knew at the time either. All we knew that it was getting hotter and bigger elements that we were running into, and that sort of thing.
Probably
Plus
rumors and
communication. They had landlines strung through the jungle. And they had anti-aircraft weapons, 37 millimeters, and so yeah, it was getting hotter.
Yeah, I mean, when you start talking about not the occasional, they've got just vast units of 12.7s, 37s, 51s set up to just annihilate y'all when y'all come into the LZs, or if y'all are lucky enough to get out and are in an area. I can't imagine especially your time frame of when the buildup was at its most and what y'all were facing. Just it's truly terrifying, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, that's when I got tickled when that's about the time that everybody's pulling out of Nam. Units are shutting down. They even sent the fifth group colors back, home. So everything was winding down in Vietnam, but for us, it was winding up.
Oh man. Yep. They made y'all wear the baseball caps. Since Special Forces left, we'll just have these guys walking around in black baseball caps and throw off everyone.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly, James. That is when they moved to the black ball caps instead of the berets. Throw them off.
Yeah.
All right.
No layout.
Dowie said you're looking good. We were lucky the NVA were not waiting for us in March of 71.
Yeah. That's always a good thing.
All right. We are in the latter stages now here. We're going to cover the two most requested and talked about things that we've come across in your career and everyone is anxious to hear about is not only the HALO, but could you speak a little bit about, if I remember correctly, you went to 1-0 school after you got to Montana, not with Arizona, but before Montana. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went to 1-0 school down in Camp Longton. It's near Saigon. Went through that training. Came back, got an opportunity to go to HALO School at some point after that. And so went through the HALO School. And I think it was the last training jump, the night training jump. I think the guy that was slated to go on the mission with Storter either sprang badly or broke his ankle. And I remember Captain Storter came up to me one night right outside the club at Camp Longton and asked me if I wanted to go on the mission. And I said, hell yeah. So that's what started it all. And our jump was the fourth jump, I think. Matter of fact, I'm sure it was the fourth jump. And there was 4 of us: Captain Storter, E7 Ruff, E6 Moye, and my junior self, E5 Mike. And during training, we found out that Moye was what we call the base man. And for whatever reason, his body configuration or whatever, he fell the fastest. So he was pegged to wear a fluorescent strip on the back of his parachute. And then there was another one sewn in or the first one was sewn into his backpack of his parachute. Second one was sewn into the top of his parachute when it opened. And we basically had an LZ that we thought was like a meadow, just kind of a meadow in the jungle. So that was our LZ. And I think you had to jump with 75% moon illumination at the time. But we left at night down in, I think it was Camp Longton. Yeah. I think we left from Camp Longton at night on our mission. We wore, I don't know, somebody came up with the idea of these Israeli Uzis. They fit very well on our reserve chute, so we tied them on there. We wore AK-47 vests with 9 clips of 9mm in them. And you can see those in the picture, I think.
Yes, sir.
And then we boarded our plane, flew out. There was a lot of brass in the plane, but little old E5 wasn't privy to making small talk with brass. So I think the other 3 kind of went in the back and were doing whatever. There were some side seats along the side of the aircraft. I laid down and went to sleep. And then they gave us a warning light. So we all got out and got ready. They decompressed the aircraft and dropped the tailgate, and we waited for the green light and then stepped off the aircraft at I think it was 16,000 feet at night, and ran a 4-day mission. And the colonel, I can't remember his name. The colonel of our compound was on the chopper that came and got us. He actually helped me climb up into the chopper. I can't remember his name though, but yeah, that was the mission. And to my understanding, that was the only technically successful mission of the SOG jumps, where you jumped in, you ran a mission, and you were extracted without the enemy ever knowing you were there. I think I heard Cliff's account of his jump, and he basically said, I guess you could say it was a successful mission since we lived through it. And I guess he's technically right, but I think ours was more successful. Not to offend Cliff, though.
I mean, yeah, arguably, I mean, and I don't want to ruffle feathers because I respect the hell out of Mr. Cliff and Mr. Sammy, who I've had the honor of meeting and had Cliff on, and I've had the honor of meeting Mr. Mike Sheppard, Howard Sugar, and had him on, and Mr. Scott Gross, speaking to him and the Gross family, who was on the fifth one. And if you're going to judge successful, you've got to look at one. One was bad weather. They were separated. People were picked up at different times. And then 2 and 3, and that was with an Indig, were on that one. First 1 and 5 had Indigenous troops with them for the jump. If I believe 2 was sadly the Madison Stroline incident with J.D. Bath and Billy Waugh, when Nick Brockhausen and Charles Wesley had to go in and look for Madison, and they couldn't find him. The NVA were laying a trap for him. And then 4 was with Captain Larry Manus and Noel Gass, John Trantella. And sadly, it went well, but Noel Gass had a new edition toe popper in his backpack, and the something went wrong, the altitude or what have you. So when he landed, the toe popper went off and almost blew his butt off. So that's where he came up with they came up with his nickname, Half-Ass Gassed. So he had to be immediately taken out with another recon man. So it left 2 recon men on the ground running their own missions, as while you guys, and it'll say right here, I had a few things that I wanted to mention here. All Storter had said he did, who had drank too much the night before. He said, "God Almighty, what have I done? I've gotten into the SOG's 4th Halo jump. Boys, I've got to tell you, I ain't never made a damn free fall in my life. Storter was undoubtedly SOG's most intense Halo refresher course ever conducted," which we'll kind of get into, hopefully. But Ruff had already made a static line jump and 25 Halo free falls. Millard Moye, an accomplished civilian skydiver, was the base man, and though Bentley had only a few Halo jumps, he could more than carry his own weight. When they finished the training, SOG targeted the Play Trap Valley north of Pleiku. Cambodia, just 5 miles away, and several thousand NVA were within 5 miles of the Halo team's drop zone. But what makes it the most successful is at 16,000 feet, everyone jumped, and Storter, you got to love Captain Storter. You could have taken a team of mules and not pulled a greasy string out of any of our asses. But the reason it was so successful, all of the men landed within 30 yards of Moye, the base man, exactly in their appointed DZ. We were 100% assembled and ready for recon within 10 minutes of landing on the ground, and we're moving. They reconned the play trap for 4 days, not even having a hint of the NVA knowing they were there. It was a perfect recon. That would be why the jump is considered SOG's most successful jump.
Yeah. One incident happened on the jump, though. I forgot to mention this a while ago, is that we wore these Indigenous backpacks and we strapped them to our butts tied him on. One of Ruff's straps came loose and threw him into a flat spin. And of course, nobody knew it at the time. But the next morning, we looked at his eyes, and there was no white. It was all red. So it kind of messed him up, during the night, I think, for a little while anyways. But yeah, it's like being put in a centrifuge and spun around for quite a while. So that kind of messed him up a little bit, but he was all right the next morning.
Can't imagine. I'd seen that, and thank God he had experience and didn't freak out, because that could have clearly been turned into a huge issue for him with that going on. I can't even imagine that in a combat jump. There's going to be few things to cover here. Ruff rucksack came loose, and he went into a flat spin, whipping with such force that the capillaries in his eyes bursted, making his eyes turn pink, though this did not impair his vision. Dizzy, he could concentrate on just one thing, so he watched his altimeter to ensure he opened his chute at the correct altitude. He knew he was still over Moye, so he would be okay. Woof. Woof.
Yeah. I think I forgot to mention one thing. When everybody hit the ground, I know several of them cut their rip cords out. I cut mine out, but I also cut out my Cap 3 timer, which was an automatic parachute opener, because it was Czech-made, but it was better than the ones that the U.S. had at the time. So they used Czechoslovakian Cap 3 timers. And it's just a backup in case, something happens, you black out or whatever.
Wow. So when
Jason Harding has those. I'm sorry. Jason Harding has my ripcord and the Cap 3 timer now in his museum, or whatever he calls it.
Oh, we'll be speaking with Jason later this month, so I'm making a note to ask him if he could have that ready to show us. Wow. I'm so glad he's done what he's done and collected all of this stuff, because they're working on a museum, and there's one at the 5th Group Hall of Heroes, but I've heard a rumor they're working on a big one, so I'm glad he's got all the stuff that he's got from you guys, because God only knows what would have happened if some yahoo would have gotten their hands on something like that. So could you speak a little bit what those 4 days were like? It says before that, and were y'all using what kind of parachutes? Because that's what was coming up. Did you say T10s or paracommanders or?
No, T10s were like World War II chutes. I think they weren't paracommanders, although we jumped paracommanders in training. I think it's the one with the big hole in the back. I think it was called a T7, something like that. But that's what we jumped in the mission.
Trying to see. I wonder if it's the ODT-10 with the 7-cell TU modification.
TU7, yeah. It may be a TU7, something. It's 50 years. I can't remember.
Yeah. And I've never jumped out of a plane. Don't plan on jumping out of a plane. So I will am just trying to document for everyone who does know about it and ask me about it. So no problem whatsoever, sir. So you hit the ground, and as you said from the picture that everyone was curious about that I've shown, y'all have Uzis. and it says you actually took along a suppressor for yours and took up point. Could you speak a little bit about what that was like, getting ready and putting the suppressor on your Uzi and running point?
Man, I don't remember a suppressor.
Oh.
To be honest, it may have been running point though. Oh, that was easy. I was a junior man. Everybody outranked me.
Did you? I mean, did you have any trepidations? Did you feel maybe y'all got in without being seen? Did you feel confident enough to run point with what had just happened? Y'all falling out of the sky and going on?
Oh yeah, there wasn't a problem with running point. I mean, you're in the jungle. So,
and is this going to be like a normal SOG mission to where you guys are moving a certain period of time, stopping, waiting, checking surroundings, and continue on like a standard recon operation?
yeah, it was pretty standard.
Okay.
I don't know if you call it a dry hole, but we didn't really run into anybody.
Were there any signs? Were there any signs of the enemy that y'all saw? Maybe any encampments y'all came through, or any anything that no?
It was just all jungle.
Have and guys, I apologize. One of my pup rescues is outside playing and barking. Mr. Howard and them jumped into the Eye of Drang Valley after you guys, of course. Was the play trap? Had you had any experience being in that area, or did you look up any AARs to figure out if it was hot or what you needed to be prepared for? Or anything?
No, I didn't know much about the area. I had never been to the play trap. Everything I had run was in Laos or local. Later, it was local missions around Kontum because we were taking casualties on the road from Pleiku to Kontum.
And I just saw this that Mr. Ronnie Knight, RT West Virginia, is the person who had to drop out because of his ankle. Did you hear before the jump that they were indicating that Captain Storter had heard the mission was going to be scratched because the NVA had intercepted, or the NSA had intercepted an enemy radio message with not only the exact details of a jump, but possibly even the team's names and individual serial numbers on the weapons and your social security numbers.
I don't know anything about that. That's way above my pay grade.
That I guess it's glad they didn't let y'all know about that, because that seems like that could have been a little terrifying if knowing they may have intercepted your exact plan and where the heck y'all were going.
Yeah. The names and social security, I can believe that. The weapon serial numbers, I highly doubt that.
Yeah, that's pretty intricate of a incursion into the information. So if they've got that individual numbers like that's crazy. Let's see here. Other than the parachute, were your loadouts different from the prior for the HALO mission from what you would take on your normal recon missions?
Well, we didn't have a PRC 77. We all carried these little handset. I think the same kind of handset that pilots carry, when they're flying. So we use those. And of course, the Uzis were totally different. But other than that, we carry the same kind of equipment, grenades and smoke grenades and white phosphorus and mini grenades, just the typical stuff. Other than what I mentioned.
So you don't even remember whose idea the Uzi idea came up with? It was just one day they showed up with the Uzis and y'all started training with them or jumping with them.
Yeah, it was probably Storter though. That came up with that idea. I don't know who came up with it really.
I mean, it seemed like it worked pretty good. I mean, not having, although the car could, you could fold that stock in, but it seemed like as far as weight, that could help out a great deal. I'd worry about the stopping power, and I was going to ask you, what did you feel about taking it out there and potentially running into a few NVA with a 9mm?
Yeah, well, that Uzi, that Israeli Uzi, was designed for close quarter combat, and it didn't have much stopping power. You may have to shoot somebody, 4 or 5 times before you drop them. But that's what they were using, so that's what I went with.
Wow. We've got a few questions here that we're dealing with the HALO, and some of them are going to probably deal with training. But how were the teams selected to conduct the HALO jumps? And I don't know if Mr. Bentley was in the ODAs, but how were the teams selected for the jumps?
Gosh, I don't know. The other jumps, I had no idea how they were picked and who picked them or whatever. All I know is Captain Storter came up to me one night and asked me if I wanted to go on a mission.
That's usually what we found, because Mr. Cliff Newman said the same exact thing. I forgot where he was. He bumped into Billy Waugh, and Billy's like, "We're getting ready to do something. Are you in?" And he was like, "What exactly?" He's like, "We're going to be jumping." And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And next thing you know, Billy's hurt, and Cliff's in there with Sammy and Melvin Hill and the Indige jumping.
Yeah, that's kind of how things went. It was kind of like the Wild West. It was a lot of cowboys.
Who was around and who they trusted at the moment. And it sounds like Captain Storter had some pretty good trust and faith in your abilities, and was like, "Hey, let's ask this young gun if he wants to strap in and go with us."
Yeah, either that or too much alcohol.
Scott was curious, did the prior HALO teams assist in training you for your mission?
No. All our training was done at Camp Longtan down near Saigon.
Could you, was it literally like any normal HALO training would go? I mean, what was it like?
Well, I don't know what normal training or HALO training is. All I know is what we went through.
Yeah, I mean, y'all being in a combat zone, prepping for a combat jump,
Well, I wasn't privy to all the ins and outs of who picked the DZ, all that intel stuff that went on. That was above my pay grade. I don't know who picked all that stuff out. When we dropped, all that sort of thing. I was just there when it was ready.
That's amazing. You guys just answering the call like that, and especially for something is serious as a combat Halo insert into NVA territory. Doesn't get any more step up than that, sir. Um, with the 1-0 school, is there any concentration whatsoever on either static line or Halo, or is it strictly fieldcraft and leading a SOG recon team?
I'm sorry. Can you say again?
When you were at 1-0 school before the Halo refresher, does the 1-0 curriculum does it have any airborne classes, shall we say, on either static or Halo, or is it all strictly for
Oh
leading a
no, it's
recon
all,
team?
yeah, it's all oriented to leading a recon team in the jungle.
Okay. Wow. And do you I'll get to these questions next, and we'll be about done here because I've had you 2 hours. Did what was the length of time that you got that you guys had before the mission went off to prep for the Halo jump to get everything ready?
Well, we went shortly after training, so I mean there wasn't a whole lot of prep time.
You think? Let's see here. Would you say a few weeks, a month training maybe before the jump, or?
Oh, you mean the total training?
Mhm.
Well, see, none of us. Now we were rope qualified, and I think Moye said he had done some free falls, but I hadn't done any free falls prior to that Halo school. So, and Storter hadn't either, I don't think.
No,
But
sir.
yeah, after the training, it was. I don't even think we left Longton before we went on the mission, because we left out of Longton. So, right after the training, the people were picked, and the mission was scheduled, and we left from Longton to the drop zone.
That's what I was thinking because Mr. Cliff and I think also Mr. Howard said that either Colonel Sadler or Colonel Pizzell or maybe Mr. Galen Radke, whoever that was going to be up in the plane going along or what have you, that they were there. They trained, like you said, kept in seclusion because the leaks and what have you, and then were immediately once were done, like you said, off for the mission and get the heck back home.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right.
Wow. Let's see. Miss Dowie said, Dowie Mad Dog Krupa tried to take his EF company into a large clearing on the Cambodian border. When he was shot out of his lead, Hugh and became MIA. The NVA were waiting for them. Terrible story. Terrible story.
Yeah.
No, the chase medic on that, and terrible. Daiwi said CCC should have never transmitted any mission data to Saigon before the mission started. Very bad tradecraft. A terse RT Montana has inserted somewhere north of Dak To yesterday. Was okay, though. Absolutely. As we found out from all of y'all, Saigon was a hotbed and infiltrated big time. Any thoughts on why Halo was not used until the later stages of the war?
No, I don't have any idea. I think it was just, I think it's somebody's brainstorming.
I want to say that was either Galen Radke or either Colonel Sadler. I think it was Colonel Sadler and Billy Waugh that were getting tired of all that was going on and ended up Yeah, ended up trying to get it done, and that's why he was on the first one, Billy, until he got injured and had to wait till the second one. But I think, like you said, it was literally they got tired of being shot out of LZs and were anxious to see if they could get you guys in somewhere to snoop and poop a little bit better or easier. And sometimes, clearly, it wasn't either of those. Questions, guys. Y'all get y'all's questions. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Well, that's just going to say, you know, that's just, I'm kind of proud of the fact that we pioneered HALO combat missions. I mean, that's what started it all.
Yeah, you guys, and I never, and I've got Montana's jump. Yeah, I need to get that off. Never mind. That's the jump inventory for RT Montana, and that's got information I don't need to show. But you were on there with Captain Baylor. That's some of the stuff Mr. Mike sent me, and some of y'all's airborne qualifying and all of that. Guys, if y'all have got some questions in, go ahead and get them in, because we're starting to get ready to wrap up here. And I found one note I made when we were speaking, and I'll get this in to see if anybody's got any questions beforehand. Did you end where? Oh, the rubber raft mission. Didn't you have a rubber raft mission where you were using the guns as y'all's paddles?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a local mission after some of our guys got killed on the road from Pleiku to Kontum. I think Sheppard got with Major, was it Cole?
Oh, Cole, yes, sir. Cole wrote a book.
Intel. Yep. He was the intel guy. And so we started running local missions. And what we did, there was a river that kind of ran, pretty good sized river that ran kind of parallel to the road, but it was like, a click or two, from the road. So we got in the choppers and we had these rubber rafts, and we had them land on the side that the road was on. And then we paddled across, we just like the old World War II movies, where you're paddling with your weapon butt. And we get over to the other side. And of course, when you're paddling, the river current takes you downstream. Okay. So you don't cross 90 degrees, you cross diagonally. And just so happened when we got to the bank, there was a big tree or clump of trees that the foliage hung down on the water. So we were there and we were decompressing our rafts and all this stuff. And that was the side of the river where the river came right up to the edge of edge of the bank. But the other side from whence we came, the bank was higher. Okay. So we were deflating our rafts, and all of a sudden from the bank that we had just come from, almost directly across from us, I don't know how many there were, 2 or 3, maybe 4 guys were pushing or swimming a bamboo raft across the river to our side. And we opened up on them, and of course they dropped in the river and were gone. But when we did that, the whole bank on the other side opened up on us, but they didn't know where we were because we were camouflaged from all the foliage from these trees. And you could tell they didn't know where we were because the leaves were falling out of the trees, from the bullets flying too high. And so we had a pretty good firefight there, and then evac'd out of the way because we didn't. See, we didn't know what was on our side of the river at that time. You know, were there more on our side that we didn't know about, or whatever, you know? So we evac'd out of the area. Later came back in, and of course they had all abandoned that area, and we burnt the place down. And they had caves dug into the side of the bank of the river, and you know, they had beds there in under these thatched roofs and all kinds of stuff in there that that we burnt down. So yeah, that was an exciting time. Oh, Gentry was there then. He had a Mac 45 with a suppressor on it, and I was kind of wanting Mac to shoot these guys so that it wouldn't give away our position, you know, with that silencer on it. But you know, all of us opened up at the time, so kind of gave ourselves away. But yeah, that was a exciting time.
That's like the Band of Brothers mission, you know, when they're crossing that cold river going to get the Germans, and they're all having to butt stroke over there with their carbines and all of that. That is so crazy. A rubber raft mission.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to tell you, it was foggy. You know how rivers have fog on them early in the morning? So we left the same bank that the VC were on and crossed diagonally, and it was kind of foggy, so you really couldn't see across the river or anything. And then it started lifting, you know, as we got to the other side. So I was thinking, you know, if we had crossed later, we would have been, you know, dead meat crossing that river with them on that other bank. I mean, directly across from us. So the fog saved us.
Little smoke on the water.
Yeah.
All right. We've got one more question about the Halo jump, and I'm going to show off a few photos of Mr. Mike Bentley, and we'll close this out because we've had a great show today, guys. Josh is curious, how were you guys able to find the drop zone in the middle of the night and avoid getting hung up in trees?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, you couldn't make the drop unless you had 75% illumination from the moon. So that helped out a lot. You know, when you're up high with that amount of light, you can see the DZ as you approach. So it was pretty simple, really. At night, even though it was night, you could being up high like that, you can see the ground a lot better than if you're down on the ground.
And did y'all for Mr. Millard being the base man, did he have some kind of illumination paint on his chute to where y'all could identify him and keep in line with him as he's being the base man and everything? Or did y'all have anything like that to help?
I think I went over that with the fluorescent stripping on his backpack, and then on the top of his chute.
Okay, perfect. I had just gotten a question from a viewer that wasn't able to watch and wanted me to make sure I had asked about IDing you guys. Okay. Yeah. We thank you, Jason, for pointing out Mary Jo's question. And there's actually one more. Sorry about that. Mary Jo was curious. Can you tell us about the famous photo of you and the team when you just got back and everyone's drinking and you've got your Coke in your hand?
Oh, I think that's after the Halo jump.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's not me drinking a Coke. That's Ruff. He didn't drink.
Oh,
Everybody else has got a
wow.
Bud Light.
Okay, you do have a Bud Light. I thought you had a Coke as well. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
jeez.
I think everybody's got a beer except Ruff.
Yes, sir.
That's actually
Actually, Mr. Millard's double fisting.
it is. Yeah. Yeah. That's right after we stepped off the choppers at Kontum on the tarmac. And what was
How, I mean,
cool, I didn't go over this, but every time a SOG team went out and they came back, no matter what time of day it was, you walk down to the mess hall, and they had steak and eggs. Whether it's 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever, we always had steak and eggs after a mission. So that was kind of cool.
to see y'all, I mean, you can see the elation on y'all's faces. I imagine that's the best cold beer that y'all have ever tasted.
I don't know about that, but it's good to be back.
Did you guys get a any reward, R&R, a little time off, or were y'all right back in the swing of things as soon as y'all got recuperated, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I didn't get any time off. I don't know if any of the others did or not. Yeah, it was just back to the routine.
Just another day in SOG, as they say.
Yeah, just another job.
And we've got this last one, which will be a good one. Sorry, where did that go? Dave just had it. Just talking about a funny story. Good Lord. Nope, that's not it either. This is embarrassing. He's basically wanting to know, there's books like Nick Brockhausen's We Few and several others, to where the guys are talking about some funny stories either in the field or at the back at the compound. There it is. A lot of SOG stories have a certain amount of gallows humor to them, a la Nick Brockhausen. What is the funniest stories you have from your time in SOG?
The funniest? I don't know. I have no idea what. I don't remember a whole lot of fun. Oh yeah, well, it didn't have to do with anything in the field, but Mike and I were down in Saigon for something, and we went into one of the bars and we're having a drink. And it was a bar like the Old West, where they got all the bottles and all the mirrors in the back, and everything. And people sitting around, and we were at the long bar. And Mike Sheppard started playing cards with this Mama San, who was tending bar. And Mike told her she was cheating. And she got all hot and everything, was talking Vietnamese, and I won't say the words, but anyways, he says, if you do that again, there's going to be consequences or something like that. So they kept on playing, and Sheppard caught her cheating again. So he told her she was cheating again, and she took his drink and threw it in his face. And, Sheppard didn't like that a whole lot, so he stepped back, grabbed a bar stool, and threw it into the mirror and bottles behind the bar. And that started it. All the Vietnamese that were in the bar started coming out after us, and we figured that's too many, there was, I think, Sonny Hoffman was there, me and Mike, and so all we could do was run. So we start running down the streets, and we found, we found this Lambretta, it's a little 3-wheel motorized cart thing. So we jumped on the back of that and told him to go. And but you can just see this big crowd of Vietnamese chasing us behind this Lambretta down streets of Saigon. So that was pretty good.
That is a classic.
Oh yeah, I remember one time. Well, it was a night training jump. It may have been the last one, as a matter of fact. But Mike Sheppard, when he was coming in, hit a bush or something. It knocked his legs out from under him, landed on his butt. He was kind of temporarily paralyzed, and they got him to the hospital. And he had a inguinal hernia too, so his feeling came back. So they did the inguinal hernia, and that was done in Pleiku. So Mike got a hold of me and said, "Come get me." So I got the Recon Jeep and drove down to Pleiku, and drive up to the hospital. And Mike's standing there in a hospital robe and those little mealy mouse sandals that they got, and said, "Let's go." So he hopped in the Jeep. I drove him. We stole him out of the hospital and drove him back to Kontum in a robe. And he kept telling me, he kept telling me that, I'm driving an Army Jeep. They're not the most comfortable things. So any little bump or something, he was whimpering and wincing and, "Hey, take it easy." And I just kept driving because there wasn't nothing I could do about it. But yeah. Oh, you got the picture of the Montagnards. I love that picture.
That is a wonderful, and all the children in the back messing around and playing back there.
I would like all of the kids of the United States to look at this photo and show how they actually divided labor amongst the Montagnard villages. And you'll see those kids are 3 years old, some of them 3, 4 years old, and they all got a job to do. They all go down to the river and they fill up those bamboo poles, and then they hike back and they give them to the men that are working in the field so they have something to drink. And when they're empty, they go back down to the river, fill them up, and come back again. And that's what they do all day long. Those little kids right there.
The younger generations, even my generation, could use, and that's partly why I'm doing this, not only documenting y'all's history, but we could learn a lot from you men, or you guys were kids then, but we could learn a lot from y'all back then as well as now, and as well as the Montagnards and the people over there, and the hard work and their will and determination is just, their resiliency is astounding. I was showing a few more photos before we close out here. There's your M60 war photo with the belt around your neck and your headband on.
Yeah. You know what? I think that photo, we were just clowning around.
Yes, sir. The send home photo.
I think that was taken, I can't remember where, either Doc Toe or see, every once in a while we had these drills, where everybody had to throw on stuff and run out to the wall, in case of an attack or something. So yeah, I think that's just one of a clowning around pictures or something.
The background looks like because in the full length picture, you and Mr. Newman are together, and I think it's at Dock Toe. It looks like from the buildings in the background.
Yeah, I think it was Doctor.
I've got a few shots here of you at parties with some of the guys. There's you and Lieutenant Forte right here. That's a great photo of you. I mean, look how young. I mean, looks like.
Oh,
I mean, God. I can't. It just astounds me how young you guys were and what y'all were doing. I mean, flabbergasted. This is a great one. I always love the Recon Company barbecue pictures and all of that. There's you and John Good, Billy Greenwood talking with Mr. Bill Curry, Charles Braz. How often would y'all get together for barbecues like this? Was it a common occurrence to kind of blow off steam when everybody was home, so to speak?
yeah. Well, we used to have every Sunday evening we'd have steaks for dinner, and they set up a barbecue right outside the mess hall. And that brings up another story. We got rocketed one morning. We were all sitting there having breakfast, and the 122s started dropping in. So everybody ran to the wall, got in the bunkers. And after it was all over, we walked out. One of the 122s made a direct hit on our barbecue pit. It really made us mad. But yeah.
Wow. And those 122s. Oh, I was just showing some photos of you guys. Here's another one of you. It's the same one. You had from a different angle, as a matter of fact, because there's John Good, you, Mr. Regis. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Miter, Regis Miter, Billy Greenwood, Charles Braz, Ralph Munson. That's a good name, Ralph Munson.
You know, that photo may have been when one of the USO bands, you know, some of them were from Philippines, some of them from Australia, or some of them when a dignitary like Maggie came. What was her name?
Maggie Raye? Martha Raye?
Yeah, Martha Raye came and visited. You know, we'd have some kind of cookout or something like that. So that may have been on one of those occasions.
Wow. Did you get to see her often, or at least one time while you were in country? Did she come visit while you were at CCC?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We gave her one of our black bush hats that said "the meanest mother in the valley."
Oh, wow. I've seen that in Jason's books, and I was wondering where she got her hands on, and of course you guys got it for her.
Yeah.
What a lady. I love reading about her and seeing the photos and the time she spent with you guys. She looks like she was one heck of a lady.
Yeah. Well, she cared a lot for us.
Thank goodness. Her and Miss A, we always love hearing y'all talk about those two women because God Almighty, what two wonderful people, and especially for y'all being in the situations y'all were. I think we've hit our questions and all of that, and I've had you way too long, 2.5 hours, but it's meant a lot to us. Mr. Jim Burns, who is a Green Hornet, is wanting to thank you. He was at FOB 2 in '67, and he was saying thank you for sitting down with me and sharing with all of us.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying thank you, and I want to say thank you as well for sharing. This is a big interview, a big get for you to share because your history, not only for your recon work, but you being a part of the 4th and arguably one of the most successful combat halo jumps in history. So we just can't thank you enough for spending time with us today, and your lovely wife for bearing with me and helping me out and helping you get set up and making this happen. So without her, we'd have been out of luck. So I thank her as well.
Yeah, I'd have been scratching dirt. Hey, one thing I didn't mention though was, I think you just mentioned it though about the Hornets. I had a lot of respect for the chopper pilots, the Cobra guys, the bikini lead guys that flew us in and out of those operations. I want to thank them very much.
Absolutely. Mr. Jim's a class act, and he worked at NKP, he worked at FOB2, and worked with Jerry Shriver down south at CCS. So that'll mean a lot to him, and as well as all the other SOG airmen that watch and participate in here. So we appreciate your time, and Mr. Matt wanted to let you know before we get off that it was nice to see you. He recognized your voice immediately, and you and Mike Sheppard and the RT, the yards from the RT were the absolute best.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And without further ado, if is there anything you'd like to close out with?
No, it's other than it's still winter here in the high country in Montana. So
yeah,
you're probably a lot warmer than I am.
Oh, it's a muggy 68 degrees and rainy here so yeah, we're a lot better off heat wise than y'all are. Well, everybody says they love your fire and your fireplace back there. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. 40 years of making, this is a dream come true. I asked my wife where she wanted to retire to, and she said someplace with mountains and trees. And I always wanted a log home. So everything worked out great. We built our log home here in Montana.
That is beautiful. And I get some pictures from Howard Sugar every now and again of the surroundings. And my God, y'all couldn't have picked a more beautiful place to retire and live out y'all's life. It's majestic.
Yeah. Every turn is a poster card.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. Well, sir, I'm going to let you and Miss Bentley go. We've had you 2.5 hours, and I just want to thank you again for spending time with us, answering all these questions. It means more than you could possibly know.
Well, you're welcome.
All righty. Well, I will be in touch with you, and I'll keep you abreast and get you a link over to where you guys can check out and watch it as y'all please. So I'll talk to you here after a while.
All right.
See you later.
Okay.